Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to replace the rear shocks in a 2007 Honda Civic. It's a pretty easy job, definitely something for the novice budding mechanic can accomplish. It takes about 20 minutes per side, and I suggest replacing both at the same time. Don't just replace a single shock. Even if the one that does not appear to be bad is relatively new or seems to be in really good shape, just replace the pair. It's just much better that way. The tools doesn't require a lot of tools: a socket, a wrench, an Allen head, and a screwdriver, and that's pretty much it. And just jack up the car, put a jack stand underneath it, take the wheel off, and remove the shock. Is in essence how you do it. I do show what cupping looks like on the tire, and that's why I opted to replace my shocks, because that's usually an indication of a bad shock. There could be other suspension failures as well, but in this case everything's been pretty tight that I'm pretty sure it's just the shock. So here you go. So the reason I'm replacing my tires or the shocks is because I'm looking at the tire, I'm noticing some interesting wear patterns. And it might be hard to see on the video, but this is what they call cupping. It's actually occurring along here, a slight angle. But if you notice, and let me see if I can get the groove lines here are narrower than they are here. So what's happening, so it's worn out flat here, but not here. And it alternates, so it gets low again here, and then it goes up, and then it gets low again right here, and then it goes up. So what's happening is the tire is bouncing, and the shock is supposed to stop that. The spring, you get into a harmonic, is going like this on the freeway, or whatever the normal speed that I'm running at, and it's doing this. I'm getting a vibration in the car from somewhere, probably in the back because it's not in the steering wheel. So what's happening is the spring is going like this, and the shock is supposed to stop. It's supposed to bounce and then kind of stop and just moderate that kind of springiness. But at a certain speed, it'll reach a harmonic where it'll do this every so often, and it'll just do this to the tire, and it just gets into like I said, a harmonic, a frequency where it'll wear this side, and the spring bounces up, and it goes down again, and it goes up, and then it goes down again. So it's adding pressure, and it's mostly just actually, you can see right here, I'm wearing down into the next layer of the tire, and it's not happening here. And this is not a flat spot from braking, because it's occurring in a pattern all across the tire. Secondly, it's at an angle, and lastly, it's on the rear of the vehicle. The rear tires tend not to lock up, especially with a car with ABS. It allows it to cycle. So here's down here as well. So that's why it's the shock and why they're being replaced. So here's the setup. The car's up on Jackstands. I actually have the back end completely off, so I can do both wheels at the same time. So you can see a jack stand, jack underneath the knuckle, and that's just to make sure that the spring doesn't push the control arm down too much. I don't know if the spring could pop out when I take the shock off, so just to protect against that, careful, that's very dangerous. Springs can hold a tremendous amount of energy, and they can be very can cause a lot of injury or even death. So it's fairly easy to get the shock out. There's a bolt right here. It's 14 millimeters, and then there's a single bolt at the top that's also 14 millimeters right up here. You're gonna need an Allen key to hold this from spinning, and then you'll use a 14 millimeter wrench on the bottom here. A ratcheting wrench is going to be much faster. There are fasteners that hold the upholstery in. You turn them about 90 degrees, and then they pull out. This will allow you a little bit extra room to pull the upholstery back, or this inside, in order to access that bolt. The install will be pretty much the reverse, but I'll show a little bit of that as well. Alright, so the bolt's undone. I pull the shock forward, and then I'm just going to manually push it up so that I can clear it and pull it out from underneath, and that's pretty much it. And now to replace it. Alright, the new shock comes banded, so I'm just going to slip this band off like so. It's going to expand a bit. This will make it a little bit more difficult for the install portion. Now, read the instructions. Talks about like pushing on the shock in order to clear some nitrogen out of the system. You can do that test if you think you need to, where you can just simply push on it and let it expand a few times. It seems like it's doing pretty smoothly, so I think this one must be doing all right. All right. There was this rubber bushing, just make sure that gets replaced. Dome upward like that. And there's a washer that goes on top, and then the shock should have come with a new nut. So use the new nut, don't reuse the nut. This one has the Allen key on top for installation purposes, so I'll tighten this up first, and then I'm gonna tighten up the bottom. On the bottom side, just installing it, I collapsed the shock enough just by hand and kind of rested it where it's gonna sit approximately in order for it to sit up there, so I can then put the bolt at the top. All right, so you just tighten it down till it stops. You can put this back. You can put this back in. Just simply pushes in, and you clock it, 90 degrees approximately in, and then all right, new bolt in. It's a little bit of pain in the butt. I lined up the holes with a screwdriver to help initially I got the bolt started. Had to turn it a little bit, almost like it's threaded to get it started. And then lining up to the other side was a little bit of a pain. I ended up just prying underneath the shock just a touch, help line up the bolt holes, and then tapped it a little bit on the back side to kind of get started. Not too much, you don't want to damage the threads, but just try to get it like seated in the hole a little bit. And then I just use a ratchet to get it in. So now everything's installed. This bolt torque is just tight until it's kind of tight. You don't have to kill it. Just remember, it's really not carrying the load. This won't back up. The load is carried perpendicular to the bolt, so it's not particularly like a large high torque. And then simply put the wheel back on, and you're done on this side. Again, I'm going to reiterate, you should replace shocks on both sides, not just one. The brand I'm using is the KYB Excel Gs. They're about $35, $36 on Rock Auto.